So I thought we could start in this room because I work in 2 little locations here.
Okay. Can you make it so we're eye level, so we're not staring up at your nostrils? There you go. Is there a way of keeping it there, or something like that?
You know, maybe I'll go in the garage.
You can put it on that little.
I can put it on here, but I think maybe the garage might look better.
As long as we're eye level, it's I think it looks better.
Well, can we go in 2 locations though?
We can do whatever you want. This is all about you. This is a Lindsey Nobel moments. Like that'd be just nice. I mean, just want to get you stationary and in one spot for. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I'm not so.
All right.
I'm not so rigid anymore.
I don't know. I don't know if this is the best location. This is one room.
It looks good.
And then we can go to the garage. Let me show the garage.
I just like good lighting and good sound.
This one's like more outside.
Outside's good. I like the outside. Pretty nature. Santa Barbara. Uh-oh. Keep that Wi-Fi. Make sure you have a Wi-Fi connection because you're kind of freezing up there for a second. This is what I don't like when it happens.
Like in the garage, you know?
Just make sure you got good Wi-Fi and it should be fine.
I don't know. Here's the studio in here.
Okay.
It looks more like a studio.
It all looks like a studio. Giant studio. Jelly.
Yeah. What's more impressive? This probably, right?
Well, the most impressive thing is just to get you eye level.
All right, so I can sit like this. It's hard to get eye level.
You get a tripod. Or what are you using? An iPhone or a phone?
Is that eye level?
Yeah, I mean, I want you to be comfy. Okay, well, let's just start. This is Lindsey Nobel. You are on Brett's with Friends. This is my 37th interview podcast extravaganza. Welcome to the show. Let's talk shop. Is it called painter or artist? What do you want to be called? Painter or an artist? What's the division?
I like to be called artist because I do performance art and sculpture and painting.
Okay. And are you comfy right now? Can you sit in that position?
But I don't have my sculptures with me and things like that. But this is good. You can see some of my paintings.
You can always send me images of those, and I'll pop them in right here or in certain spots when we start talking about them.
Okay.
So let's start at the very, very beginning of little Lindsey Nobel. When did you? Where were you raised? When did you start painting or drawing or expressing yourself? And let's just start from there.
Okay. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, and then my parents are from Michigan, Detroit area, and then basically I moved to San Diego, California in 1973 when I was about 4, and I grew up in San Diego.
Oh, nice. Whereabouts?
I grew up in this area called Mission Hills, which is like kind of an older, like, kind of like it was a mission, like, you know, the people came to California and they set up the mission. So it's one of the older areas in California.
And is that when you began your art career?
Yeah. I mean, I always my mom had a lot of art books around. She was kind of like an art major herself. So basically, I kind of got exposed to art through these books, coffee table books. And so
specific. Do you remember what artists or those were in those coffee table books that inspired you?
She had like Kandinsky and Paul Klee and kind of like the 50s artists. I mean, I remember when Jackson Pollock first came out on Time magazine. So yeah, so I mean, kind of like when I saw Jackson Pollock, I went in the garage and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try this, and nailed a bunch of things and threw some paint around. But now I use brushes. But
Did you see that movie with Ed Harris?
Yeah, I did. It was good. I always feel bad for Jackson Pollock. He wanted to have a family.
He had a good time.
I don't know. That movie portrayed him as like his family was mean.
Well,
So
it's a fine line.
yeah.
I thought that movie was out of all the movies about artists, I actually related to that one the most. Like that was like I could feel what he was, and Ed Harris is actually doing the actual painting, and the girl that became his benefactor, or who promoted him and all that stuff. And I don't know. I thought that was
It was a good film for sure.
pretty good. So did you start out drawing first, or it sounds like you just?
Yeah, I did a lot of drawings. I kind of gravitated to like tactile things because I had dyslexia. I still have dyslexia. So I kind of like was a very visual kid. So I kind of like to paint and draw and kind of feel like, I thought it was like a kind of a meditative thing as well as a child because, I had trouble hearing sounds. I still have trouble. People always tease me like, why do you pronounce that right? I'm like, because I practically can't hear things. It's like I have an auditory perception problem. I'm good at faking things, but sometimes I don't hear, when I hear music sounds and lyrics, it's like hard for me to hear the songs as well. So I think that's why I just like being a visual artist because I can just look at color and line and texture and it makes me feel very peaceful. So it's not like a struggle like hearing and things like that. So
you can hear pretty good, right? You have hearing.
Yeah, I can hear pretty well, but it's just kind of like if I had to listen to music or if there's noise in the room or I have to pronounce words that I've not heard before, like if I see an art show and I really like the artist's work and I'm like, oh, how do I pronounce that name? I just have a little bit of a difficulty.
I have a fun one. Try this one. Do this one with me. Aluminum, linoleum, linoleum, aluminum, linoleum, aluminum.
Linoleum, aluminum. No, that one's not hard for me. It's not too bad. So,
I love that. I love that one. That's a very visual one for me. I don't know.
Yeah. So I have a studio right now in downtown LA, and then I've during the pandemic I moved up to Carpinteria. So I have this new spot that I'm working in, which is kind of cool. I feel like I'm kind of back in my San Diego studio because it's like a temporary space. But
so, when did you go to that studio from downtown exactly?
March last year.
Yeah, that's what happened. Do you remember? We did 2 shows together at the Central Mattress store that were really.
Yeah,
we squeezed.
That was fun. Yeah.
That was a fun space. So have you always done abstract, or did you? Because I know for myself, I kind of when you go abstract, you don't go back.
Yeah, no, I mean, sometimes I do figurative, but basically I've been doing like drawing language and abstracts because I'm really obsessed with like the idea of connection and line and grids and stuff like that and color. So I get more enjoyment out of making paintings like that.
Uh-oh. I don't see you.
There I am back.
You glitched out for a second.
I should charge my phone more.
Is your phone sharp enough for this interview?
Yeah, I think so. I might have to go over to the plug. Shit. I'm gonna be spotty, girl.
No, we gotta make it clean. Clean sound, clean video.
Clean sound. Well, I got 20%.
Well, we got a whole 45 minutes to do this, so I'm gonna try to keep you for the full 45. We want to get the full Lindsey Nobel.
I'll just plug in right here.
Yeah. So are you mostly doing large works? Like, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're currently working on?
Yeah, I'm doing these kind of wash type pieces and kind of like abstract brush strokes with they're kind of like landscapes, abstract landscapes. So I've been doing a lot of those type work. It's kind of work in progress I'm doing. So I'm doing that. And then I've been doing a bunch of sculptures.
Yeah, I've seen your bronze sculptures. We'll put a picture of it. We'll put a picture of one of your sculptures on right now. Do you want to talk about your sculpture work that you're doing right now, and we'll just have an image of it?
Yeah, I could. I feel like I should have more work in the studio because I do have one here.
Always pop up imagery later. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the details. Just we want to get the conversation. That's the most important part. So your fans can kind of get a little peek inside your world.
Yeah. So basically, I'm a scuba diver, and I've been making sculptures out of plastics that I take them scuba diving and I photograph them. The idea of like your mind is a temporary existence. So I'll put them in different colored liquid, and I'll photograph them and then put them in these paintings. I did these earlier neuron paintings I did. And then I realized that I could cast them into bronze. And I did a fountain in Casanovio, Italy 2 years ago. They're still finishing the fountain, but it's the idea of like connection and that they're really biomorphic. And also I like that I like to hang them so they have shadows so they look larger than they are. It's like the idea of your consciousness expanding farther. So it's like I want my sculptures not to just, even though they're, about this, about a little bit bigger than my hand, that they would be like, you could basically, they expand on the wall with the shadow, like the shadow knows. So my artwork's always been kind of psychology based. It's about how we connect and how we do stuff through technology, and how that's also kind of creating a disconnect because, we're always on these screens, but then we're kind of separate as well. So I've been doing that since like 92, like like how Kandinsky looked at sound and color. I like to look at like the technology and things like that, and how like we're connecting through that. So, and how we're evolving as a species through now social media and things like that.
And how do you think that's from the 90s to now? Because it's all just ramped up technologically. How do you think that's affected your work? I mean, obviously in a positive way, but like if you're looking at that as a sort of an inspirational tool, like how have you seen your technique?
Well, I mean, when it first started happening, it was like I definitely made more art because I was doing less social media and I was less strapped to the phone. And so I had two hands instead of one hand. And so I think it's really changed my work because I just see the evolution of how people are interacting and things like that. And now with these NFTs everyone's doing, and artists are kind of like reclaiming the gallery space. You don't have to always go to Yale or have a master's degree. So I think it's kind of more for artists. It's like everyone get their work out there. Like if you can't get a show, you can still put your stuff up on Instagram and Facebook, and you still get people to see it, and they see your evolution of work, because not all of us can get like a great super gallery, and so we still can be artists without having to be have a show. We can do a piece and talk about it. We can have community. Now with everyone on Clubhouse, you can talk about how it is to be an artist and the struggles. And so in a way, artists aren't as alone as before, because usually, in the old days, people just build up a body of work and they wouldn't really talk to each other. Now you can kind of go, oh, look at this piece. What do you think of this? And how can this change? So I think the social media is really, making artwork more community, because there was kind of like this separation type of thing happening. And I think now, with the pandemic and now NFTs and this whole new digital artists, I think digital artists were completely left behind. And now they're going to be the it people. Then they've been spending just as much time making a digital painting than they did like, a painting with traditional materials. So I think that's really great, that's changed as well.
What's NFT? I don't know what NFT means. I'm just a stupid.
Those are what everyone's doing, the non-fungible tokens. So
that.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's like, it's like the idea like you own a partial percentage of an art piece. So it's like, like Grimes just did one. And Matty Moe, the most famous artist, he just did one. So it's like now they're selling on Sotheby's and Christie. So there might be 20 of them. And you own like, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But if you go on Clubhouse Jacks, it's like that's all it is digital talking about these things. I mean, we don't want to talk about it because it really doesn't deal with my art, but we can.
Well, it's something that's
it's kind of the new evolution of art and digital currency and connecting,
Okay. Let's new before I ask a question. So that's nice. As long as we can. Who's your puppy?
It's my neighbor's dog.
Aw, what's his name?
Yeah, he just kind of wandered in here. I don't even know his name. He's cute though.
Just dog.
He's dog right now.
So, how do you like? I mean, I've had a couple of different people try to represent me with gallery spaces way back when, and a couple of them went bananas on me, like literally crazy, thinking they were being chased by Asian mafia, and I needed to bananas. Can you give us the highs and lows with dealing with a gallery system?
Well, I haven't had very good luck, honestly. I mean, I had one art dealer, she ended up in Bellevue, and they lost the paintings. A lot of times they fake that they sold something because it looks good, and then you don't get paid. So I mean, it's just, you want one that will be like, take you to the art fairs and be a higher level to raise you and connect you with collectors. But I still feel like most of my collectors just come from like people seeing my stuff on Instagram or people I know. I mean, I think it's just a struggle with the artists. I think that's why those NFTs and people are trying to do, this online stuff now. I mean, now there's Artsy and the whole world's turned online for digital exhibitions. So I don't know where the gallery scenes are going to go. I mean, I think people still want art, but I think I don't know, going to 10 zillion galleries and trying to get in, especially at my age, is like they always want the younger person or the really older person. Like I'm mid-career. So it's like I'm mid-career. I think you have to do a lot of marketing yourself. I think you have to get out there. I think you have to do group shows. I mean, there's always this higher art, like, are you a higher artist? Are you an inside artist? Are you an outside artist? And I think I kind of fall into both since I've had shows with like artists like Saul Lewitt, who's like really high up there. But then, I've done really like funny group shows. So I think you just have to go where, the energy is. And it's also like who it's very much like that. It's like, oh, well, so-and-so knows so-and-so. And so you can be in the show, or this person recommends you, or if you went to Yale. I mean, that's why all the Yale artists get picked up before they even graduate college because, they've got a social streaming right into the galleries. I mean, you still have to be a really good artist to even get in Yale. So, but I think it's a struggle no matter what. I mean, sometimes people's careers are up here and then it drops down and then it's not so popular,
Yeah.
So.
There are certain I always found that you seem to be good at it where you create a body of work that relates to itself. Like, when they all want something that looks similar, like a group of paintings that are in a certain.
It's definitely good to be consistent. I mean, I do move around quite a bit more than I should, but I like the exploration of it. And, I'm in it for the long haul. So it's like, maybe I don't get picked up till I'm 70. But meanwhile, I'm picking up collectors and I have one person who's like, oh, I'd like to come by the studio and buy it. Or I'm working with this new gallery that's supposed to open next year. We'll see if if it happens, that's great. But in the meantime, they're kind of taking care of their work. They photographed it. They're trying to connect me with places in Europe. But I have like work in like Rome still with a really good dealer, but he sells mostly like Basquiat and blue chip art. And I have some pieces there. And I had a dealer in Prague, but she killed herself. So I mean, like things like that, like it's always up and down. And I think artists really need to learn to not take the drama of the art dealer and the system personally. The more stable they are, the more consistent they are with the work. I think that they can just keep moving forward, and also just moving forward for themselves. I mean, art is about your own process and your own wanting to do it. No one's making you make art, no one's making you choose the color or make a sculpture. It's like kind of a thing that you feel the need to do. So
yeah, it's very nebulous. I think you still gotta anchor yourself in your own reality, and there's lots of people that will come and tell you how to paint, what to paint. If you have 7 of these paintings, we'll put them in the show, and sort of blah blah blah. But it's like it's very, I don't know, I don't do good with instructions.
No, either. I think it's just it all, at the end of the day, the work is going to be where it goes, and it's going to end up with who it goes with. And like I have pieces that went to like smaller auction houses and they didn't bomb at auction. Like people picked them up and people cared enough to keep them. So I think for me, that's like winning. Like you're like, stuff's not like, it's continuing. It's like I lived in New York for 14 years. And that work, there's pieces there. I look back and I'm like, I don't know where that painting is, but it's kind of like it goes on to its life, and it moves on.
So where's
the boss guy have to deal with that because he's 28 and everything's like, everyone's in charge of it, or finding pieces and wood that he painted in the subway still. I mean, so I think it's an energy thing.
So where's that fine line of like, keeping your integrity of making a painting that comes directly from your id, and the cross section of making it commercially viable, where you're sort of selling out, but you're not selling out, and where it's still fun?
Well, I think it's like, always a struggle. So it's fun and then it's not fun. I mean, it's fun when you're in the process and you're in the flow, but then when you're not in the flow, it's the struggle. Like for me, the most struggling thing is marketing, taking good digital photos, labeling, marketing, also figuring out my price range, like, oh, I should give it for this, like being consistent with that, which is really important.
Okay,
I think
let's hit
that's the best thing about a gallery.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second because that's a really, I'm sorry, I don't usually interrupt, but you're hitting upon a very, very key question that a lot of people ask. And I would love to ask you, how do you decide how much your paintings cost? And you're blank, you got to get your picture back on there again.
I don't know what happened. I thought it was charging. So I guess the whole thing with pricing, it also has to do with the last piece you basically, sold. I think that's like,
that's the watermark.
That's the watermark. And then, sorry, I'm fixing my technical problem here. Yeah. So, and then also what the dealers have, if you've sold at auction, things like that,
And so, gosh, because that is the question, isn't it? Like,
and I think I've had that problem because I think, dealers look at that. They want to have control. They want to, like I signed a contract with this dealer, but then, like what they want to control the inventory. So they don't want the inventory running off and being sold for, a painting for $1,000, which they just marketed to someone for $6,000 or $7,000. So you try and be really consistent, and also being consistent on, if you have it online at Artsy, like I have a dealer in India, and I'm like, okay, you got to be consistent. I mean, you can discount it, but if it's listed on the web, it should be very consistent. So, but then you never know, because like one time you could like Google your name and type in shopping, and then there's some random painting that shows up on like Cherish or something that someone picked up somewhere, and you're like, great, where's your market value? Does that make it go down or up? So, maybe it's easier just to die, and then they figure it out. And you just worry about the work, because you can spend your whole life trying to figure out where you are economically with this whole thing,
I call that the Van Gogh effect. When I was selling artwork on the boardwalk, this little girl was talking to her mom. It was like a scene. I want to put in a scene in a movie where she's all, mommy, his stuff looks like that guy, the artist died. And she goes, oh yeah, they won't be worth anything until the artist is dead, honey.
Oh, they love saying that statement.
We're still alive. We can buy a painting while we're alive. All right.
It's definitely a horrible statement that like they always have to say, oh, you'll be famous when you're dead, or
I don't personally care about fame.
And then all these people, and then these other people are like, oh, you might get famous when, or this will be your year, or it just goes on and on. And I was really good friends with this artist, Dennis Oppenheim, who's no longer with us. And he told me it's never ending. They're always going to torture you. They're like, oh, they all bought all of Vita Conche's work. Hey, did they buy any of yours at the fair in Dubai? And Dennis is like, no, they didn't buy anything of mine. And then he's like, oh, why aren't you in the Met show? Oh, I don't know. That you should be in that. You're an earthwork show. I don't know. And he's like, see, Lindsay, they're always going to say you're not like good enough, or you're not thing like that. Like people are like that. They don't, sometimes when you're even doing really up, they'll like try and not acknowledge it, or they say you're not included. It's honestly, if you want to be an artist, it's like you're always feeling like you're lacking being included, or you're not cool enough to be in that show, or you can't be in that gallery. And like, like I was invited to be in a group show, and I was really excited about it. And, the guy's like, oh, you have raw talent. And then they took some like 20-year-old, nothing against 20-year-olds, that's only been painting for like a few years. And because maybe, I don't know, they just did. So you're like, oh, I really thought I was looking forward to being curated by that curator. So it's a constant like up and down letdown. And I think the more spiritually you are, the less it's going to bother you, because it's going to be constantly like that. I mean, you need to have some sort of spiritual art practice, or you just have to be a complete like drunk alcoholic, So I mean,
there's a fine line. There's a fine line. Hold on, I'm gonna take a drink.
I think so. I think, yeah. Take a sip of beer. So, for me, I'm just kind of like, it's nice to be out of the city. It's the first time I've been out of the city and in the country for a very long time. And it's kind of nice not to have to go to galleries and feel not included. I just feel included making my work and doing my work. And I'm kind of, you get to a point where you're just done chasing things and trying to like,
keeping up with the Joneses.
I had one friend, he's blue chip, and he's like, an artist turning blue chip. And he's like, don't ever pass out cards. I'm like, well, how much are you making a year? Well, he works with Hauser and Wirth, so he's making $10 to $20 million a year, or probably more now. And it's like, so the different levels of where artists end up is it's an interesting thing. I mean, I still really like the whole process. I like going to the art fairs. I love going to Europe. They're very nice to artists there. They don't, in America, they go, oh, how do you make, artists like, oh, do you make a living at that? If you're a lawyer, they don't say that. But if you're an artist, they say that. So if you basically are in Europe or India, they go, oh, that's a very admirable job. And you could be not even a very good painter, and they still say that. There's a little more respect for artists in other countries than this country. So.
Your screen's black again.
I know, someone just tried to call in.
We're in a very.
I know. So, I could show you my other little studio. I have like a meditation studio. We can walk over there if you'd like.
Okay. Wait, hold on. Before we do that, I had a question for you.
Okay.
So keeping up with the Joneses and all that stuff, you don't ever want to kind of stifle your creativity, and you want to remain new, and that moment when you create something new where you kind of make a mistake and it then becomes an offshoot of a new series of paintings, that feeling, that's what I mean, that feeling of newness, or that where you're pioneering, you're like, oh, I broke through this other side.
Yeah, I mean, I think since I've been doing it so long, I felt that way with the sculptures and the photography and my syringe paintings and my white on white paintings. Like I have these moments where I'm like, that's the body of work that's going to be the breakthrough. And then everyone's like, oh yeah, that's it. But then it's still the marketing, the dealers, the getting in line with the right people. So, and sometimes I feel like I know too many people. Like I've been in a scene too long that they just see me and they don't see the work. And then that's kind of frustrating. You're like, oh, okay, you're just seeing this me. And then I'm like, well, will you look at the work? And do they even really sit down and look at the work?
Yeah.
So,
does it,
because if the work is based on drawings, I'm like, going to sit down, look at the drawings, and then see the bigger paintings and see the evolution of where it's gone. Because when I've gone through all these processes, when I was in New York, I was doing like these chalkboard drawings. They look very Basquiat. I used to hang out with Basquiat's friend Shenge, and they look like chalkboard. And I did these bar scenes. I used to trade drawings for drinks in Soho.
Oh, that's the best.
And then when I lived at the Chelsea Hotel, I got into like string theory and doing these line drawings on grids.
That's the dream. Is I remember that story with Dali from a child where he went into this restaurant and he scribbled. I think it was Dali. He scribbled on a napkin and paid for everyone's meal.
Yeah,
that's always what you want, right? To pay for.
Yeah, it's in Europe. It's really, they're good like that. They're like, oh, art, So, but I've traded a lot for stuff for art. Like I once was in the Wall Street Journal for artists at barter to pay their bills, and I even there was this guy that Peter Frank turned me on to that we do dental work for paintings. So I mean, there's this really cool thing that happens where you can kind of use it to trade, and then it's also getting the energy out there. Like I once saw a cartoon in Art News, and it was like, art don't die with your pile. Like get the work out there, get people to see it. So
yeah, didn't somebody trade you a painting for a car?
Oh yeah, I did. I traded this guy in Rancho Santa Fe, and he traded me this old BMW. I wish I had it now that I'm in the countryside.
You tried selling that car to me. I couldn't do it as that convertible, right?
Yeah, the BMW.
What'd you do with that car?
I sold it. Yeah, because I couldn't. It was difficult because when I was in Inglewood at the time, I would have to move 2 cars, and it was like, oh, I don't want to move this car back and forth, So it was like I didn't want to move the car around constantly. I was like, oh no. So yeah, so I sold it.
Okay,
but, I could have restored it, but I didn't really have a place to park 2 cars.
Yeah.
Hard enough parking 1 car in LA than parking 2.
So let's jump over to the other studio. Show us what you got going
on
in the studio.
Okay, I'm going to wander over there.
Okay.
I'm going to bring my charger. So this is the studio I'm in now. And then I'm going to go.
Real quick, before you go to the other studio, can you show us what's a little close up on the wall, what you got going on over there?
Yeah. I'm like entanglement. could have been a little more prepared. So this is one of the pieces I'm working on. It's kind of like, you know, it's work in progress. This is an oil painting. So I work on stretch a lot because I don't want to get squished, you know?
What do you
So I'm
mean?
gonna go to the studio and show you because then I can roll them up and like stretch them later, you know?
Yeah.
So this is my new spot. Do little garden area.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll
looks
show
lovely
you
there.
this.
Do you listen when you're painting? What kind of music do you listen to?
I like house music and DJ music often though. So these are my other pieces I do. This is kind of one of the kind of infosphere pieces. And then there's another piece I did during the whole like, so these are kind of like figures, like 3 figures. So that's that kind of piece.
Nice.
And then these are my white on white pieces. I don't know if you can see it. But I like these because they have a lot of texture, you know, so you kind of like see. So it's the idea of these invisible neurons and things like that.
Yep. You're known for your white on white. I like those white on whites.
And then these are like some more abstract.
Oh, that's wild. Is
Yeah,
that acrylic or oil?
This one's kind of cool. Like,
Is that acrylic or oil?
this is oil. So I've been switching back and forth. This is a big piece. It's kind of like atmospheric. It's like if it's in the right thing, it's got a silver line in the middle, so you can kind of like see the light shifting.
Yeah, yeah.
But lately I've been doing these kind of funny, these like pieces that are like, but they're like 2 people kind of talking. So it's the idea of like bodies and energy like that. So I'm doing those. So those are the new pieces like that. So these are kind of consistent like that.
Yeah.
And what do we have here? I have this yellow piece. I have a very yellow piece.
Mm. Yeah, you're very much.
So like these are consistent, and then these blue ones are very consistent. So
Yeah, see, you work in a lot of negative space.
yeah. Well, I like the drawing too, like the pencil drawing. I've been doing that. So then doing that, and then these are kind of like my kind of the color liquid line ones. They're real bright.
Yeah.
So these are kind of this style. So yeah, I'll go back and forth.
Do you are you working with resin still?
Yeah, I work with acrylic as well.
No, resin.
Oh, resin. No, I haven't done resin in a long time. I haven't. I've kind of like haven't done resin as much, you know?
Yeah.
I show you some watercolors I did during the pandemic. So these are like, I did a lot of watercolors.
Nice.
So things like that. And
what's the trick with watercolors? What give us people don't know.
Me, I really like doing layers and things like that. So this is like
dry brush.
Like yeah, like dry brush, and then I like doing like these kind of like consistent like watercolor type things. So, but I go back and forth because it's like,
Do other people like when they talk?
And then sometimes they have like figures in them, like this one. See, they have like figures like that. So,
do you have people that try to pick your brain that are trying to figure out how to become an artist or stuff like that? And when that happens, how do you feel when they start picking your brain about stuff like that, like what I'm doing right now?
Oh, I don't mind. I'm not like, I'm still like, if I can help anyone and give them any idea or direction, and what to do and what not to do. I mean, like don't go into a gallery and give your card to people, because usually you have to know an artist in the gallery because they don't even look at you at most. But once in a while you get lucky. So, I mean, the thing is with being an artist, there's no like, if you do this will happen. It's kind of like it could happen, it could not happen. this person gets picked up, this person doesn't, you know? So, I mean, I look at like some of the people that like their work and I'm like, oh my God, I was doing, like, I look at Ruby Sterling's work and he was doing those cattle paintings. I'm like, but I was doing these pieces at the same time. But, you know, he's got the giant gallery, the giant studio. And so they can, you know, but, you know, then you have to be kind of have a, you know, a spiritual approach to it and say like, look, you know, it's a process and it's like, it's your process. So,
Is the idea
and comparison is the key to despair. So with art, you're not supposed to really compare yourself. You're just supposed to do your own energy, you know, like I love my watercolors and I have never shown my watercolors. And I think, you know,
yeah.
I did all these watercolors during the pandemic and I hope my stuff goes to people that appreciate it. I hope someday I get to do a book and people will get the work, you know, the work will get out there more. But in the meantime, I just keep creating. I seem to find enough people to come along and buy it. And then, you know, like last year was going to be my big year. I was going to show Untitled in Miami and I was going to have a show in Dubai and, you know, pandemic happened and everything stopped. So, you know, you can't get upset about things that don't happen. You just have to keep going and doing it because you love making work and you love the process of making art.
What are your thoughts on Art Basel or Bombay Beach or both?
Well, I mean, that's like, you can't get two different places. I mean,
it's a two-part question.
Well, I love Bombay Beach because my friend is out there and Daniela, and I like it. You know, it's got a little bit of a Burning Man aspect to it, but it's like the Renegade. You know, it was there before Desert X, before the fancy. You know, Desert X is happening out there as well, and then that's like backed by all the money galleries. And Bombay Beach are people who are like, I'm gonna make cool stuff. I want to do something. You know, Randy Pablo's got his giant airplane out there, and it's like a walking like installation of like interesting things to look at. And it's kind of like a overflow of like Burning Man. Like before, you'd never see any of the New York contemporary artists in Burning Man. And then last time I went, it was like, oh, wait a minute, here's a guy. You know, Mike Kelly's been out there when he was alive. There was this other guy who did a giant silver dome. And so there's becoming more of a crossover instead of like, oh, those are those artists. And I think that's what I'm really enjoying watching, this whole not separating of who's going to be blue chip, who's represented by this. This is high art, this is low art. So, I mean, let the people decide where the art is, you know?
Yeah. What do you mean by blue chip? I don't know what that means.
A blue chip is a painting that would be something that, like, you know, it has provenance. It basically can be sold at the Sotheby Christie's market. So artists, living artists can become blue chip. They're like, oh, like if this painting went to auction, right? And I sold it to a collector and then it went to auction. And, you know, I sold a collector for like $8,000. Then they took it to auction and they listed it for auction price for $15,000 and it got bidded up and it didn't fail at auction. It would validate me as an artist, as a collectible, as a blue chip thing that would be resold. So, you know, that's why artists are really fearful, and a lot of dealers will buy back artists' work that they represent because if they don't, they want to keep the prices up high because they don't want the market to fall out. You know, like Damien Hirst, you know, he was the artist that kind of flipped the market because he bought his own work back and made it go up higher. So he's like, you know, he's kind of like, you know, he started out as a rebel, you know, he's like, I'm not going to wait for the galleries. And he did that installation in London and had people come and he just plowed forward. He didn't say, oh, you know, I went to this school, I went to that school. He just went plowed forward. Well, like Jeff Koons was an Wall Street guy who's like, I want to make stuff shiny. And then he did it like a different way. So, there's all different processes. It's different also if you're a process artist that makes things with a factory, or someone like myself who you're kind of buying the artist's energy. They basically, you're basically the artist had sat down themselves, mixed the paint, did the process, and like Arshil Gorky, or who they kind of sat there and they did the piece themselves. So there's different types of work, so
Yeah, well, with all this, it seems, because it is a fine line of like, I just want to keep on having fun with it, and when I see that it's a drag.
Well, I mean, you're just like, you're good because you just go out and you just do it. And you're like, you don't care. You're like, I'm an artist with or without a gallery. I'm going to sell my work. I'm going to go meet people who connect with my work, and you just renegade it. And that's what like Bombay Beach is like. Well, Basel's more curated, and I mean, I go there and I'm like, I don't know why I haven't shown in Basel. It confuses me. I'm like, wait a minute, I should be in there. I've shown with this person, that person. Yeah, so I mean, it's like freeze Basel. It still might happen, like I was going to be entitled. It was getting closer. And maybe I'll take me till I'm 90 years old to get there, and then I'll have even more work to show. So
it seems like some of those scenes are inundated with people that are just there for the scene and the social aspect, and not really of the creative. They want to go there, get laid. They want to just go there and
well, there is a circuit. I mean, even when you go to the Venice Biennale, they go there and then they go to Cannes, because there's a certain people like, I want champagnes, I want to wear gowns, and they go to the different events. They're like, a lot of girls are going, oh, I'm an art advisor, or guys too, but mostly girls are like, oh, I'm an art advisor. I'm looking for the collector to represent, sell work to. But I mean, I like anyone who's trying to sell work, art advisors, collectors, curators, so, it's like our networking event. It's like any kind of convention. Like if you were going and selling comic books, you'd be in it, go to the comic book convention. We're artists, so we go to art fairs.
Yeah, it's a weird.
But my main thing is, I really think artists should just not get frustrated with where they are in their career, because it's like it can change with one show,
Uh-oh, your screen.
I know. It went down again. I'm like, where did I put that plug?
I can see you now.
Yeah, so that's it kind of thing.
Okay, so where do you want to see yourself? And like where do you see yourself going? Where do you want to be? Like say like a year or 2 years from now? Look inside of your crystal ball and see.
Well, I mean, what I would really like is I'd like to have a solo show, and I'd like that critics come and criticize me, or give me a good review. And so I know where I stand as a painter and artist, so they can come see the work in a space that's been curated, that they can see the sculptures, they can see the photography, and they can see where, what they want to see. So, I mean, unless you have a solo show in New York or something like that, then you can get a New York Times review, which every artist wants. Even if it's a bad New York Times review, at least you've been reviewed. So, I mean, the writing behind the work is important, because then it creates a history. So, and without a history, then you're just kind of like, a decorating artist or something like that. You want to have a little more meaningful between what you're trying to do and how you want the world to view you,
What's the trick to finding a good decorator? I want to find, because that seems to be a rabbit hole.
I mean, that goes back to like, that's totally different than like, but I don't know. I mean, I guess you can work with any decorators. Decorators are easy to find. They're a lot easier to find than dealers. So, yeah.
Okay. I know it was an offshoot question. I got plenty of those. So where do you want to eventually see your stuff animated at all, or go into different other mediums with your visual style?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I was just trying to do that NFT and make a digital piece, you know?
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
what you have, I see this body of work, and it's a similar in structure with these sort of kinetic imagery you got going on there. Do you are you just going to go closer and closer into that? Because it seems like I like that stuff. And I know you've been doing this with the sculptures and stuff like that. Do you see it evolving within that space? In that, I'm not trying to be too technical, but it seems like you're going someplace with that work.
I'm always trying to figure things out, but yeah, I definitely would like to do larger sculptures and public works and things like that. I mean, I did one fountain, it hasn't been finished yet in Europe. And it's just the cost of bronzes. Like the last one I picked up, it's like, oh, there's another $1,500 into an object. So,
And were you doing?
I have a lot of money invested in my art. So,
were you doing those originally? And can you explain those sculptures, like the process of making one of those sculptures? Like, did you do them in wax at first?
I do them in plastic. Yeah, and I usually make them like a little bit on the phallic side. I use cucumbers and wrap them around like a thing, and then pull them off, and then I kind of add on to them, and it's like kind of a process of adding and subtracting. I have one. I gotta go get it. It's upstairs.
Well,
I have one.
we can
Take a picture.
Send me a picture of it too. We can do that. I also want you to send me a video of all your time lapse working in the studio thing.
Yeah, I could do that as well.
If you can send me an MP4 of that, I'll put that on the show.
Okay, sounds good.
And so that went really fast. That was a fast fucking interview.
Yeah, I'm sorry I had some glitches. I still think I'm gonna run out of battery. I'm like, why did I charge my phone?
Well, let's wrap it up and let everybody know how they can find your work and your Instagrams, your websites, or your galleries, or just give us, let people know out there how to find you.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's lindseynobel.com or just Lindsey, LINDSEY, Nobel, NOBEL. I'm Googleable. You can find my work there. I mean, you can Google me. In fact, when I first realized I could Google myself, I put on my business card, I'm like, Lindsey Nobel at Google. And people are like, what? If I had money, I would have bought the stock. I'm like, that was way back in like 2000 something, So, yeah. So, but I've done a lot of work. I'm on Instagram. Yeah, I have a studio downtown on 4th Street. And that's where I mostly work out of and have my meetings there. So.
Well, this has been a little slice of heaven. I can't believe it went by so fast. Actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't, I feel like a little less isolated today doing this because I think, we have these moments of like feeling like we're connected and then disconnected as an artist. So, but we need to be kind of disconnected to even get into that headspace to paint. So then we like to jump in. I call it being a social recluse. Like you're social and then you're like, leave me alone. I need to work. So.
Well, yeah, it's been a very interesting. Would you say that COVID has treated you pretty good in this environment? Has it made you focus?
Well, because I first started working in a container up at this ranch, an avocado farm. And I did some really big, like 8-foot tall coffee charcoal drawing pieces. I wish I had some here with me, but I'll send you some images of those. And I think it was a really good time for me just to not have to do anything but make art.
Yeah, did you work with real quick, because I've worked with coffee grounds and stuff like that in charcoal. The coffee, how do you get the coffee from fading after time? You seal
you put you use fixative. Yeah.
Stay the same
And then when the charcoal mixes with it, it creates like a dark brownish gray. And so the charcoal becomes kind of like a medium of itself. Yeah, but artists have been using coffee for a long time. You just have to use a lot of grind. Artists have painted with wine, So
yeah, I love painting with that photo emulsion with coffee grounds. You slap it in the back and it comes off and creates a negative space.
yeah. So
Yay. Well, yay. We're gonna wrap it up. I think that's
okay.
I think it's great.
All right.
Lindsey
Well,
Nobel, thanks for being on Brett's with Friends. My 37th episode. It was good to
oh, good.
well. You look great. You look great. I'm so happy for you and all your.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully I'll have a solo show coming up, and I have a bunch of really random things happening. Like one person, I might have a show on Netflix. They're going to use all my artwork for a gallery scene. So maybe I'll have a gallery show on Netflix before a solo show. And then I think I'm in a group show with Tracy Park in Malibu in June. And then, I don't know, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm supposed to do a solo show in September with the Bowie Gallery. So we'll keep my fingers crossed.
Well, 2021's, I think we're coming over the hump now. I think it feels like things are opening up and people are, I don't know, for some reason, the last few days, things are opening up. And the date today is the 26th of February. And I feel like, do you feel like you're coming over a hump?
Yeah, I think it's the 1 year lap because like last year on my birthday, it kind of shut down. So March 10th, it should be over. Anyway. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for interviewing me. Bye.
Bye. I'll see you soon. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yay.
Yay.
Really exciting. That was Lindsey Nobel, artist. I'm Brett Woods. This is my 37th episode. Got some cool ones coming up. Be safe out there. We'll get through this. We're getting through it. And I will talk to you guys